The story begins in the kingdom of Helmuth. Vermouth and his 4 comrades have destroyed everything. Their objectives are to defeat all the demon kings. At the moment they have already defeated 3. The other comrades are the wise Sienna, who is a wizard, the believer Annis, who is the healer of the team, the brave Malon, who is the tank, and lastly the stupid Hamel, who is our protagonist. Hamel considers Vermouth as his rival. They dominate the kingdom. But suddenly a monster surprises Vermouth. Hamel runs fast and protects him, thus receiving an attack that pierces his chest. In his last moments, Hamel is saying goodbye to everyone. He is now a child and his past life was written down in a book. When he reincarnated, he kept his memories of his past life. It has been 300 years since his death on the mission to eliminate the demon kings. Surprisingly, he reincarnated as a descendant of the hero Vermouth. Hamel is now called Eugene Lionheart and is 13 years old. Vermouth had several women, but his only official lineage was from his wife. Several branches of his lineage exist, but the indirect branches are not taken into consideration. Eugene has the same Lionheart surname but comes from an indirect branch. A lineage ceremony is coming soon where they will compete. Those from an indirect branch are forbidden to use a real sword and train the mana. Eugene practices with a wooden sword. His father is a bit scared because Eugene doesn't look like a child. He has a scary gaze and a dark aura. Tomorrow is the lineage succession ceremony. It is a tradition that occurs once every 10 years. Both lines, direct and branch, participate. They choose children between 10 to 15 years old from the main house, and they compete to see who has the ability to be worthy of being called Lionheart. But the direct line, unlike the branch, could train with real weapons and train their mana. This is because they don't want someone who comes from a branch to succeed more than those who come from the direct lineage. Instead, Eugene is incredibly talented. His father feels guilty for not possessing talent. There will be 3 children from the direct line and 6 from the branch who are the competitors. One of the direct line children will be the son from the first wife, and the other 2 will be the twins from the second wife. 2 of the branches have a relatively larger authority. The others are trash. Eugene begins to remember his past. At that time he thought he was a genius, but he really wasn't. A real genius was the great Vermouth, praised by everyone and known as the god of war. His other sidekicks were also highly regarded in their fields. Eugene is frustrated and wonders if the Demon King is still alive to this day. In his past life, Vermouth promised him that he would kill the Demon King of imprisonment, and thanks to that promise that peace lasted up to now. 300 years later, they finally reach the main territory of the Lionhearts. Eugene arrives in the kingdom. Only those who belong to the direct line are allowed to wear an emblem on their left side. Eugene stays there. There is a maid who will help him with anything he needs. Eugene asks her to show him the gym. Outside there are a boy and a girl who have the emblem. These are the twins and they are making fun of him for being poor. The 2 of them give him a warning. The other boy peeks out, but is quickly caught by the girl. Eugene is training with a wooden spear. The maid is amazed at how it moves. The twins arrive in the area. They are called Cyan and Seal. Cyan asks him what he is doing. Eugene says, "Can't you see I am wielding a spear?" and calls him an idiot. Cyan gets very angry and asks him to apologize. Eugene apologizes, but Eugene doesn't believe him. They keep fighting him and ask him to clean the carriage he used. Eugene tells the maid to clean it. Cyan starts yelling about why he is ignoring their order, since he is Cyan Lionheart. Eugene mockingly says, "And I am Eugene Lionheart." Seal Lionheart also introduces himself. Cyan is still upset that he ignored his order, so he picks up a wooden sword from the floor and challenges him to a duel. Eugene tries not to accept the duel, but Cyan keeps insisting and gets annoying. In the end he accepts and starts to take the weights off. He had weights on his clothes and throws. Cyan is surprised by how much weight he had. The 2 get into their positions and in the blink of an eye, Eugene easily takes Chow down. He makes him throw up and his sister doesn't understand what happened and thinks he did train the mana, saying it's unfair what he did. But in the end, he ends up accepting it. A man named Hezar arrives and comes to guide the young Cyan. He asks him what happened and Eugene explains. In the end they decide to retire and leave. Tonight, another competitor will arrive and the rest will arrive tomorrow. Cyan told his mother what happened. The mother is the second wife of the direct line Anasilia. She is enraged at how a commoner humiliated her son. Cyan apologizes to her, but she slaps him and asks Hezar to take him away and train him. She tells Seal to stay by Eugene's side. If she had the chance, she would kill him, but she'd be the first suspect. And then the guardians of the family code would come. He asks her to befriend him. The next day the 3 heirs of the collateral lines arrived. Their names are Deacon aged 11, Hansen aged 14 and Juiz aged 10. The head of the family also arrived. Everyone gathers to welcome him. They all meet. The legal wife Theonis and the eldest son of the direct family are also there. Also, the first in the line of succession Iode Lionheart. Gilead Lionheart arrives and next to him is his younger brother Jim. Gilead greets everyone and invites them to dinner together. They are at the family table. The only others missing are Gargis and Desera. Despite the fact that they are from a branch family, they are highly regarded. There is a man who also accompanies them called Loberian from the Red Tower. He is Siena's disciple, or rather the disciple of Siena's disciple. 300 years ago, Siena ascended to Master of the Green Tower, becoming the youngest tower master in the history of Aeroth. She rebuilt the standard magic books in Aeroth. So, both Green and Red Towers keep the wise Siena as their Grand Master. Gilead makes Cyan apologize to Eugene. He also praises Eugene. He is surprised to hear that Eugene practically trained alone and thus defeated his son. They start eating, and after the meal, they explain that the first test is a labyrinth. Inside the labyrinth there are traps and monsters, but the monsters are Loberian's illusions, even though he is sure that they would feel very real. If they manage to defeat the labyrinth's boss, they will be able to pick a treasure from the Lionheart family treasure room. Dinner is over and Eugene is walking when he runs into Gargis and Desera. They ask him if he really defeated Cyan. He answers that he did and leaves. Eugene goes outside to train. Gargis and Desera arrive again. Desera challenges him to a spear fight since her specialty is spear fighting. Gargis will be the judge. The fight begins. Eugene blocks all the attacks from Desera. Desera no longer knows what to do. After throwing multiple attacks, she thinks she found an opening, but is easily blocked, thus giving the victory to Eugene. Gargis and Desera want to join forces with Eugene in order to defeat the direct line. As this has never happened, Anasilia wants to find a way for her children to survive. She hopes that Iode will be chosen by Loberian so that he will leave the family for a while. Her children will become stronger and take the first position of successor. The day of the test arrives. Loberian provides them with a magic that allows them to create the weapon they want. Each one made their own weapon. Then he gave them a necklace that helps them to know if they are in danger or want to get out of the labyrinth. They all enter the portal that leads to the labyrinth. Eugene is used to labyrinths as in his past life he went through many, thus has everything under his control. 3 have already been disqualified. The others are still in the labyrinth. Loberian and Gilead are observing each of them. They analyze them and say what weaknesses they have. The eldest son seems more interested in magic, but he doesn't want to pursue that because of his mother. However, his father wants him to pursue his dreams. Loberian comments that his favorite story is Siena's. On the other hand, Gilead's most likely favorite character in the story was Hamel because he was shocked to see Eugene's ability. They were both speechless watching him fight. Surprised, they call him a genius, because that troll was a test to find out how he escaped, not to fight him. Instead, he defeated him easily. Gargis also manages to defeat him, but he was so wounded that he faints. Cyan manages to escape from the troll and joins his sister Seal. Desera also appears and scares Cyan. He scares her due to his scream. This was actually an ambush, but it failed, so she tries to run away. The two chase her all the way to the end, and by chance they reach the center of the labyrinth and the final boss is there. Eugene was already there in a corner, and asks why did the 3 of them arrive together. I waited for them because I was curious about who arrived first. Seal tells him it was him. What Eugene wants to do is give up the spot to them, because if he fights alone, he easily defeats him. He comments that it would be sad for them who struggle to get there. The monster does not attack if you are not within a certain distance. He suggests attacking it by order of arrival. Desera goes first, then Cyan and lastly Seal. Each one is going to fight alone. Eugene tells Desera that if she doesn't dare, she should surrender, but she doesn't. Cyan says if Eugene is going to fight, Eugene goes last, and if Cyan manages to defeat him, he will call Cyan Big Brother for the rest of his life, which of course motivates Cyan. The final boss is a Minotaur. Desera is already face to face with the Minotaur. She starts the fight, but is easily overpowered. The Minotaur catches her and throws her away, thus ending the fight. It didn't attack her anymore since she is an illusion. Cyan's next. He turns his sword into Kai. This technique requires 10 years of practice and the mana to be able to achieve it. His Kai disappears because the one who created the labyrinth is Loberian, and he disabled the use of Kai, so everyone is on equal footing. Cyan goes straight for the Minotaur. Cyan manages to inflict small cuts on him, but they are not enough. He goes for its legs, but is blocked by the knee, then is caught and thrown. Also missed. It's Seal's turn, but she prefers not to fight since she can't use Kai either. It would be all in vain. Eugene thinks she is smarter than her brother. He picks up his sword and shield. The fight begins. Eugene climbs up the Minotaur's body. He dodges all his attacks and goes all the way up to his head. The Minotaur throws a fist towards his face, thus hitting himself. Then, Eugene begins to cut him in his neck, mainly in his artery, managing to knock him down completely and thus winning the fight. Cyan is speechless and feels some kind of emotion, but it is not fear. Most likely it is admiration towards his power. The ceremony is over. Gilead is surprised, but especially Loberian, since he could easily defeat and go through his labyrinth as if it was nothing. Gilead sent several men to investigate Eugene's town, where he is well known for his persistence in training. Gilade comments that he was born to fight. Loberian asks him if he doesn't mind that he is better than his sons. However, Gilade is happy because it will make the Lionheart name shine a whole lot brighter. Loberian continues to insist on what would happen if he decides to become the next heir, and thus become the new leader of the Lionheart family, to which Gilade replies that the position of the head must be held by the best of the Lionhearts. If his family cannot secure it, it is rightfully his. Loberian proposes that Gilade adopt him as his son, to prevent the collateral families from causing unrest. All the children gather except for the 3 who lost first. Gilade is wondering why they failed. Io didn't make it to the labyrinth because he was distracted by magic. Cyan and Seal made it, but didn't defeat the Minotaur. On the other hand, Eugene did everything perfect. Gilade congratulates them all, but especially Eugene. They all leave to rest, but Gilade asks Eugene to come with him. Gilade is about to hand him the treasure. Seal feels jealous as she has never been to the treasure room. As they are walking along, he talks about the talent he has when it comes to being able to use any kind of weapon. Currently in the Lionheart family, the sword is the forte, but in the past, Vermouth could use any type of weapon. He was called the God of War, master of all. He also talks about how Vermouth was not the only one who was proficient with all weapons. The other was Hamel, also a great master only after Vermouth, confessing to him that he liked Hamel more than Vermouth. Eugene froze. Instead of the divine aspect of Vermouth, he prefers the human qualities of Hamel. He never felt inferior to Vermouth. On the contrary, he sought to surpass his limits. In the end, he ended up sacrificing himself for his friends. They arrive at the place where all the treasures are. Eugene is the first person who is not the head of a family to come there. There is a senate where the old lions of Lionheart are. They are composed of direct branch family and indirect branch family. Only the most important ones are there. In the treasure room are heirlooms that have accumulated over hundreds of years. Among them are the heirlooms of the great Vermouth. Eugene asks for the sacred sword, but it is not possible to obtain it since it is a symbol of the Lionheart family. Another reason is that after Vermouth, no other person has been recognized by the sacred sword. They open the chamber and Eugene enters excitedly, and looks intently at the sacred sword. The sacred sword is a sword that has existed since the origin of the sacred empire of Eurus. It is a sword given by God. Only Vermouth has managed to wield it. With this same sword 300 years ago, he defeated the Demon King of Slaughter, the 5th highest entity in the infernal realm Helmuth. Eugene tries to pull out the sword, but ultimately, he cannot. Besides, even if he picked it up, he couldn't have it. So, he gives up and decides to go for something else. While looking, he finds a spell. The Sword of Gluttony is a sword that can consume the mana it cuts and turn it into its own power. It can cut a powerful spell with a single stroke. However, the reason Vermouth could use a spell is that he was also an excellent wizard. It's too much for his current self, so he decides to keep looking. There are several weapons he is familiar with, such as, for example, the Draconian Carbos spear. It takes a bit of time to heat it up, but it can throw flames at the level of a dragon's breath. The Winneth Storm Sword. It is a sword that was blessed by the elemental spirit, King of the Wind. The Bow of Unbridled Thunder. Pernoa. It is a bow that can shoot thunder, no matter the distance. The Flying Usury Sword. Jabal. It is a sword that, when you apply the mana to it, becomes into a whip with hundreds of blades. Jedon's Shield. It is a shield that can deflect all incoming attacks into a void. Eugene says they're all awesome and he wouldn't mind grabbing some of those, but he wonders if there will be more stuff. He doesn't see the Moonlight Sword or the Demon Spear. He thinks the easiest choice for now is the Winneth Sword, although he prefers to keep looking a little longer. There are also gems and accessories, not just weapons. When he takes a good look, he grabs a necklace. That necklace was the one he had in his past life as Hamel, the memory of his parents, who were eaten by monsters. He wonders why it is there. Maybe Vermouth brought his body to his house. He is a little confused as to why Helmuth and 2 Demon Kings still exist. He wonders what promise they made by putting his memories there. Eugene doesn't want to blame them. He thinks there must be a reason why they couldn't kill the Demon King. In the end, he decides to take his necklace from the past. He does not want Hamel's memory to remain in that vault. Gilade is surprised by Eugene's choice, since supposedly that crystal has no potential at all. Gilade thinks it's weird since that crystal isn't registered in the vault. He wants Loberian to analyze it to see what kind of spell it has. Since that necklace isn't a Lionheart treasure, Gilade lets him pick something else. He runs quickly and picks up the Winneth sword. Eugene is outside talking to Gargaz and Desera. He talks to her about what was there. Desera was very excited about the spears that were there. She doesn't understand why Eugene chose a sword. She is excited to hear what kind of spear was in the vault. 300 years ago, there were 5 demon kings in Helmuth's demonic domain. Rank 1, the demon king of the apocalypse. Rank 2, the demon king of imprisonment. Rank 3, the demon king of madness. Rank 4, the demon king of brutality. Rank 5, the demon king of massacre. Desera and Gargis discuss which demon king is stronger. The demon weapons of brutality and massacre were missing. Eugene wonders where they might be. If there was the sword of the moonlight blade, Eugene would choose it without thinking. It was this same one that defeated the demon king of brutality and slaughter. Eugene starts practicing with it while the other two watch him. We move on to Gilead and Loberian. Loberian analyzes the necklace, but it contains no magic. They wonder why an object like that is in the vault. Loberian comments that there exists magic that can read the memories of the mana. Sienna was the one who created this magic. All objects have the mana, so she will use this magic for the necklace. She activates the magic, but only a few seconds from 100 years ago. Apparently, the other objects damage the mana of the necklace. So, in the end, Gilead will give the necklace to Eugene and offer to adopt him as his son. Jin Lionheart goes over to Eugene. He is happy to finally see him in person. Jin will help guide him when there are meetings and things like that. He guides him to the main room where Gilead is. Eugene and Gilead start talking about the necklace. Gilead told him that he used the magic to read the memory, but they only saw the market where it was sold. Eugene is weirded out because it's not possible for his necklace to be in a place like that. Gilead is going to tell him about the adoption, but before he spoke, Eugene thought he was going to have his marriage arranged with Seal. Gilead sees that Eugene is misunderstanding things and explains about the adoption. Eugene is surprised, but Gilead explains that his father will also become part of the main family, that his intention is not to steal his son. Eugene prefers his dad to make that decision. Gilead will bring him in to discuss it. A gem is needed to train the mana. It breaks and releases a certain amount of mana. The monsters have it in their chests, so Eugene wants to practice it already. Eugene withdraws and notices a certain scent of perfume. There is someone hiding in the corner. He discovers it's Anacilia. Anacilia can't stand Eugene, but in her mind, it is better to be on good terms with Eugene, since Eugene has a big future in the family and this could backfire on her. She asks him what he talked about with Gilead, but Eugene says it's private. She plays dumb and Eugene decides to walk away. Behind him, she was showing her true face. 2 days go by and Eugene's father arrives. The two embrace. Jehard didn't think his son would make it. Jehard and Gilead head inside to talk. Gilead tells him about the adoption, but Jehard is unsure. He thinks the other immediate family members will take it the wrong way. Gilead tries to convince him that adopting him could increase his potential. The father goes to Eugene to talk about it. In the end, he decides to accept the adoption as it would be the best thing for his future, although he prepares himself for the difficulties he will face. But Eugene tells him not to worry, and that he will also be his only real father. They part ways and Eugene goes back to training. He has no intention of becoming head of the family. Besides, the two wives won't allow it. He says the best way to end the conflict is to ignore it or attack it directly. All the families meet at the ceremony to share. Cyan's mother tells him to get ready because, from now on, he will be compared to him. She tells him not to worry because he is still her son and from the direct line. She asks him to befriend him. Seal is bothering Eugene. She wants him to tell her Nuna. Iode Lionheart decides to go with Loberian to practice his magic. But for now, he won't be Loberian's apprentice. Iode is happy because he is moving away from the family. Mom puts pressure on him and reminds him that he has to become the patriarch. Gilead warns her to leave him alone. Fianus is thinking that Anacilia probably is happy about this. Iode was not born with the talent befitting his lineage, and is naive and weak-willed. He will be better off making connections with various wizards, growing his power in Aeroth. The day after the banquet, Iode leaves with Loberian. The other sons of the branches also returned to their own homes. Eugene and Gerhard ended up using the empty building. Today Eugene will learn the mana for the first time. The development of the mana is categorized into two: breathing and body training. Breathing involves collecting the mana from the atmosphere through your breath. Body training has to do with moving your body to collect the mana. Neither is easy, but breathing is more prominent than body training. In the past, Hamel used the training one, but then switched to breathing on the recommendation of Sienna and Vermouth. Eugene and Jin meet and head to the forest where the mana is concentrated. This forest was created by Vermouth 300 years ago. Jin gives him 10 days to feel the mana, to which he thinks it won't even take 10 minutes. They enter a hut. There is a staircase that leads to a ritual circle. There is a rule stating that branch families cannot learn the mana. Instead, they are taught the red flame ritual, which is useless compared to the original one. The white flame ritual is only for the main family. Eugene does not know much, but he has seen it in Vermouth. the high-density layer of the mana that surrounded his body. This materialized into white flames. It looked like a lion's mane in those times. Eugene concentrates and begins to feel the mana. Jin doesn't believe him and says it's just his imagination. Jin casts an aura on him and Eugene guesses with his eyes closed what position he is in. Jin is very surprised. The two meditate to transport the mana throughout the body. Eugene does it with ease, surpassing Jin's expectation. Eugene's core is very large compared to beginners. Jin calls him a monster. They leave the site. Jin explains that a core can split. These are called stars, and who started this was Vermouth. He had 10 stars and was the only one to reach that number. Jin and Gilead have 6 stars. Cyan, Seal, and Iode have 1 star. Eugene is excited to be reincarnated in a body much better than his old one. He is also learning the Vermouth technique. They return to the castle. Jin tells his brother what happened. Eugene wants to try something and Nina appears. He asks her to bring him the sword. Nina brings it to him. Eugene takes out the mana and takes it to his sword. He creates a powerful tornado. Inside the tornado a voice is heard. The voice says, "It's you, Hamel, I remember you." The voice must be the spiritual king of the wind, Tempest. Tempest knows that he is reincarnated since the soul does not change, even if thousands of years go by. Eugene asks him why Vermouth did not kill the remaining demon kings and Tempest. Tempest says that the battle against the imprisonment demon was quite difficult. Only Vermouth and the demon king were left standing. Vermouth put away his weapon and also did not address the demon king of the apocalypse. Apparently, he made a contract with him. Eugene wants to know what kind of deal it was, but Tempest doesn't know. Eugene collapses to the ground from the incredible force of the sword, running out of the mana. He was concerned that he wasn't actually the reincarnation of Hamel. What if he was just someone whose memories were rewritten by Hamel? But from what Tempest said, this confirms that he is indeed the reincarnation. Jin and Gilead arrive, again being shocked that no one after Vermouth could summon an elemental king. Geo will be in charge of training him. Cyan and Seal. Outside are Cyan and Seal training not to be left behind. Sylph is a low-rank elemental. Eugene tells him that, if his king lied, he will kill him. Eugene plans to go to Helmuth, Eroth, Erez, and Luhar to see what happened to his old comrades. Although with that body he can't go there yet, but he will someday. 4 years have passed and Eugene Lionheart is now 17 years old. He has 3 stars in his body. In order to keep improving, he wants to go to Eroth to learn magic. He meets Cyan outside after practicing. Cyan tells him that he didn't forget that when Iode went there, after the ceremony, he wasn't good enough to become Loberian's disciple. Even though he managed to get into the Red Tower through connections, he could not make any great achievements. Eugene turns to Gilead, talks to him about what he wants to do. Gilead doesn't seem to agree, but in the end he can't refuse. He wants him to promise not to take part in black magic. Though, Eroth is a black tower, where dark wizards gather. Currently there are no bad rumors about the tower, but the Lionheart's family have a law where they stand against dark magic. Eugene tells him not to worry. He knows perfectly well the things they did 300 years ago. He leaves and Seal wants to talk to him, but she stays behind the door. She asks him if he is really going to Eroth. She doesn't want him to go to Eroth. She starts giving him possible solutions to make him stay. Seal proposes a duel if she doesn't leave. Eugene does not change his objective. Seal asks him what will happen with his father. He answers that he is fine. He is already used to life in the main house. She also says that Uncle Jin will be sad, and that there is also his brother. Eugene leaves and she didn't want him to leave too. Eugene says goodbye to everything and enters the portal. We are already in Eroth and he is traveling through the sky. There are 5 towers that create a pentagram. In the middle, there is the castle. Eugene wants to visit Sienna's mansion. 200 years ago, she left her mansion, only leaving a letter saying she was going to retire. Her disciples and wizards tried to track her down, but could not find her. The curious thing is that on the day she disappeared, it was her birthday. The guide gives his opinion saying that maybe she went to the demonic realm of Helmuth, and that she supposedly went to avenge her companion Hamel. There is also another theory that dark wizards murdered her. Eugene thinks it was the demon kings because the dark tower is linked to Helmuth. Many people pray in front of the mansion to pass the magical test. Eugene enters the mansion and proceeds to investigate how did she live. In the past, Sienna asked Hamel what plans he had for the future, to which he had nothing in mind. Moron was planning to be the king. Hamel asked Sienna about her dreams and plans. She said just to live like an ordinary person, get married, have children, and then be an old woman. In the end, she lived life alone for 100 years. Eugene wants to see the library in the basement. He wants to find out if there are any clues, but he can't open the books because of the watching guard. He also wonders how his necklace appeared. It is odd to him. Apparently, someone messed with his reincarnation. There are rumors that every night he enjoys pleasure with a succubus. Eugene gets angry and screams because there is a damned succubus in a place like this. The Dark Tower not only has dark wizards, but there are also demons. There is an alley that is known and famous for its black market, but there are a few impure stores that have succubus serving as waitresses. And rumor has it that Iode visits the place regularly. The alley is called Bolero. It only becomes a corrupt alley on full moons. Eugene had no plans to approach Iode and wanted to concentrate on his work. He is very angry that he is staining the family name, and on top of that with a demon. He wants to beat him, but first he wants to have evidence. He will wait for a full moon so he can visit the alley. Eugene arrives at the Red Tower. Outside there is a girl named Hera. Suddenly, above the tower, an explosion occurs. Some shadow monsters come out, but they are caught and eliminated by Loberian. Loberian scolds his students for the mistake they made in the summoning magic. He sees Eugene and goes down to greet him. Eugene realizes the incredible power that Loberian has. His brother Iode appears through the door. Eugene sees how he is finished by the succubus. He is very angry with him. The teacher sends him up and reads something. Loberian comments that based on what Gilade said, Eugene doesn't want to learn magic directly from him. Our protagonist talks about not wanting to cause problems and, furthermore, that people would take it badly with the Lionheart family. He wants to learn magic on his own. The teacher says that any questions you ask Hera. It has already been 1 month since I arrived at the tower. He went to the library every day to read the magical texts. He trained his mana in the morning and his body at night. I have finished reading all the books in the library. 300 years ago, Sienna divided the stages of magic into clear levels. It was originally his own unique style. But once she became the master of the Green Tower, many wizards of Aeroth began to follow her methodology. The first is circles, a ring of circulating mana, spun to create magic. When the mana grows beyond the limits of one circle, another one is formed. 300 years later, most wizards learn magic using the circles. The only wizards that don't use the circles are those with completely different backgrounds, such as elemental magic or dark magic. Eugene arrives at the practice room where Hera is. Hera suggests doing the magic circle, but Eugene wants to put his own spin on it. He wants to use the Lionheart mana method. Hera is not in favor of this since it is very difficult. If the mana spiral gets out of control, you could be seriously injured or even killed. Eugene does not give up and she gives up and will let him do it. But she's going to interfere if she thinks he's getting dangerous. It starts drawing out all of its mana. The ritual of the white flame and the circles have different methods, but in essence, they are the same. With the white flame method, the mana is handled through the heart stars. With circles, the mana is handled through a hook. He will replace the circle with his stars, and with that, he can increase his mana. You can control the mana depending on what the situation calls for. She would only be annoying if she tried to predict how it would turn out and what would happen to be wrong. Hera can't believe that at only 17 years old she was able to do that. Eugene manages to control his magic perfectly. He asks her to summon a monster to test his power. It summons a golem. It easily defeats it with its magic. Hera is with Loberian and explains what happened. Loberian can't believe it. He says he's a talented monster. Hera talks about her magic being at the same level or even above a level 3 magician. Loberian wonders if it would be unreasonable to write Acreon a letter of recommendation for Eugene. The Royal Librarian Acreon. Only high-ranking mages, high aristocrats, and royalty can enter. Loberian ultimately decides to create the letter of recommendation since Eugene has what it takes. For 1 month he has managed to do all that and learned all the magic books. He wonders where he went since he doesn't know anyone in Aeroth. Hera replies that he told her he was going to visit a friend. While in the Murdain Square, Eugene is looking at the statue of Sienna. A man arrives and it is Gargis himself. Gargis once again recommends his family's secret potion. It allows him to grow more muscles. Eugene brushes him off again and asks why he actually came. He asks if he knows Bolero Alley. Eugene says yes. It's the alley where Iode goes. Gargis wants to go there because there's a giant's testicle up for auction. Our protagonist can't believe it. On top of that, he begs him to lend him money. He wants to have that since it is very valuable among magicians. You want to create a new recipe. Eugene comments that a few days ago he saw Iode in the corridors. He saw her face and it was showing signs of withdrawal from the succubus. In this next full moon, Iode will definitely return to that alley. Eugene returns to the tower and they go directly to the room where Loberian is. Loberian shows Acreon the letter of recommendation. Acreon, the Royal Library, is the place where the essence of magic Aeroth is recorded. Famous even 300 years ago. As abundant as the magical tower texts are, they cannot compare to Acreon in quality. Eugene isn't sure about this, but Loberian says it's the perfect time, since he still hasn't learned many things about magic. You have many possibilities and the opportunity to learn about the Acreon books, so your magic will become amazing. Acreon contains ancient magic from the mythical era, as well as the texts of the philosopher considered the best of his time. In a crayon are the 3 original copies of the series of texts called Witchcraft, which Sienna wrote all the essence of her magic in her later years. Sorcery is considered the best magical text in the history of Eroth, and there are no copies of it. Only the first volume has been published. Just reading that volume will increase your knowledge of magic to a higher level. Eugene is hesitant on how to answer him. However, he asks about his brother Iode. She wants to see if he knows about the situation she is in. Loberian knows it, but has tried to stop it, but has not been able to. He wants Eugene to understand since he came to Eroth. He has failed so much. He has put a lot of pressure on himself, and that is why to relieve his stress he went to the succubus. Before, the succubi sucked the soul until they killed the person. But ever since the Helmud kingdom opened its gates, the witch queen forbade killing. Eugene, on the one hand, can understand it because the pressure from the family is great. Even worse, he still disagrees as it is dangerous. It's a full moon and Eugene together with Gargaz are in the alley. They are using magic to change their appearance. Since no one can know that an important family member is there, they position themselves for when Iode appears. In the auction there is a rule. Bids and buyers are anonymous. Each person is in a different room except your partner, and people can't check who else is participating. There are 3 buttons. The middle one is to be able to participate, the right one if you want to increase your offer, and the left one if you need additional assistance. The presenter comes out and explains how this all works. They are auctioning high-value items that come from Helmud. At one point they show a box containing a piece of metal. Eugene quickly hits the button to buy it. He realized that this metal fragment belongs to the Lunar Light Sword. In his past life, they found the sword in the Khazard place. This sword only obeyed Vermouth. Eugene thinks that maybe when he died, Vermouth left and broke the sword in the same place. They inform him that Iode arrived at the alley. Eugene arrives at the place of the succubi and enters. The succubus who takes care of him takes him to the rooms, but he tells her that he wants to go into the dining room. While he is eating, his brother Iode arrives all sucked. Eugene follows them and sees that they are heading to a hidden house. Suddenly 3 men come out threatening him. Eugene easily defeats them without issue. He enters and the 3 men attack him, but they are easily defeated by his magic. He takes out his sword and goes to the rooms on levels 1 and 2. He goes to the room on level 3 and realizes they are going to attack him with dark magic. Quickly, he pulls out the fragment of the Moonlight Sword and absorbs the dark magic. The witch leaves the room and Eugene realizes that Iode is linked to black magic. He gets very angry that his own father warned Eugene not to get in contact with dark magic, and that how the first part of this manhua ends. Well guys, if you like this video and want the next part, comment below with the word king. Also subscribe to the channel, hit